Hi, What the Health Tech listeners. I'm your host this week, Mark Fewster, Chief Product Officer at Radar Healthcare. This is the podcast where we tackle some of the trending topics, ideas, and best practice in health and social care. This week, we're speaking to Julio Isoba Blanco, Senior Developer at Radar Healthcare. Outside of work, Julio is a keen walker. I remember we did 3 picks together, didn't we? Loves playing football and is currently preparing for a spring triathlon. Julio has also been granted an allotment, so the hard work is about to start there. I can echo that. Like, allotments are much more hard work than you think they're going to be. So Julio, welcome to What the Health Tech.
Thank you for having me.
So today, basically, we're going to try and discuss the day in the life of a software developer at Radar Healthcare. So basically what you're getting involved in on a day-to-day basis, and then the impact that kind of your role has on basically our customers, the healthcare systems and the partners we work with. So to begin with, can you kind of give our listeners a brief overview of what's involved in your role as a senior dev at Radar Healthcare?
Mm-hmm. So I'm part of the development team. So obviously, I'm just another developer. I'm currently looking after 2 specific areas of the product. One of them being analytics, which we've been having issues recently, but I think now we work out what was the issue and we're in a better position. The other one is audits. So the new model of audits. I've been working in the backend and I'm responsible just to lead technically what we have to do and all the technical challenges. In addition to that, I am helping other developers, just making sure that there are no any blockers that are stopping us from doing what we should be doing. Trying to mentor other junior developers within the team, just preparing the releases at the end of each sprint that I believe we'll talk about it later.
So that mentoring bit, I'm already going off script, Julio, sorry. That mentoring bit though, so how do you find that working with kind of some of the younger developers or some of the developers who are just starting?
I think it's a great part of what you do every day because you got new starters, which we have increased a lot in the last few months. It's great because people come into the team with new ideas, so you actually get to share different points of view and you learn a lot. So it's not just that you are giving, it's as well you are receiving what you're trying to explain part of the product to other people. So I think I really enjoy that. I really enjoy having calls with other people. I'm saying calls because we moved to work remotely in the last 2 years since COVID. So obviously now I think the approach or how you help others changed completely. Now you just share your screen, you make a lot of video calls. It's different, but I really enjoy that part of the job.
Yeah, I think that has been a big change, hasn't it? The fact, we all used to be sat in a room together, 2 years ago, pre-COVID, and now, the switch to remote. Actually, I think development out of all the different departments, it probably took to it the easiest. Not that kind of everybody just wanted to work from home, but I think as the role lends itself to working from home a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the nature of the job helps because most of the time you are just sitting in front of a computer and you are just trying to solve a problem.
Yeah.
So yes, it's not as interactive as, for example, yourself. You have to talk to other people. So for us, it was easy. On top of that, we already were working 2 days a week from home before COVID, so it was just a natural step, really.
Cool. So there's lots of stages in the day-to-day kind of development process at Radar, and we've obviously kind of got different processes in place. So can you if you explain, obviously I hopefully know it because I work with you, explain to the listeners kind of what our development methodology is and what the process looks like?
So if you refer, for example, how we manage the project, we go...
So a bit of both, so
we use an agile methodology named Scrum. So pretty much what we do is just 2-week sprints, which that means for us it's just a small project that lasts 2 weeks. At the end of that project, we have to deliver something, and it has to be in a shippable state, which it means is when we release a new version to the customer, has to be functional, has to work. So on top of that, we got our internal processes within the dev team. So we got our stand-ups every day, which we don't stand up anymore because we do it via...
Just explain what a stand-up is then and what that means.
So basically, in the stand-up, we just touch base with everybody. You just share whether you have any blocker that is holding you off, or you need help from other team members, and then a bit of overall view of what other people are doing. So you are aware as well if you are facing something that a problem that is similar to what another person mentioned, then you think, okay, let me talk to that person, and then maybe we can just work together on this. So, but mainly is just in case that anybody have any issues. So the whole team should be able to help. In particular, usually is the person most expert in that area of the product.
And how about things like retrospectives? So kind of in terms of one of our processes, my view on that, by the way, in terms of the stand-up is, I think the bit we're good at, I think actually the bit we're really good at is that communication. So even though, and I know we kind of get to these questions a little bit later on, even though we've kind of grown and scaled up a little bit, the fact that as a team we communicate well, we, as you talked about, things like removing impediments and things like blockers, and kind of in that same theme. So retros, I think, are really kind of important, and I'm saying retro, but nobody knows what I mean. So retrospectives, can you just kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the agile methodology, Scrum, what we do is retrospective meetings. So at the end of each sprint, so every 15 days, just to remember the listeners that we got 2-week sprints. We do have a meeting in which we share our feedback from what we've done in the last 15 days. So the feedback can be about anything. So this is the good thing. So the whole idea of that meeting is see how we can improve for the next meeting, for the next sprint, and then see what we need to do and put in place that help us to be more productive, to tackle some of the risk or issues that we identify. In that respect, I must say that one thing that you probably like about it is that we create this culture within the company, within the team, in which it's sort of a flat structure that anybody can say anything that crosses your mind. And I think that helps because the feedback is so valuable to us that we can take it and say, okay, we can create an action out of this feedback. Or actually, it's just nice to hear this because not all the feedback is about things that we found that don't work. Sometimes the feedback is very positive, like the team spirit, for example. That's something that usually come up a lot. So, talking about the retrospective meeting and what it means for us is key because otherwise we wouldn't evolve as a team. Not just because you need to evolve as a team, but we got new starters, recently, and that helps them as well to have a voice and to say, look, I started last month and I missing, for example, this. Okay, fair enough. So we just update our documentation, our processes and everything according to that. So it's key for us to evolve as a team.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started, and I'd come from a place that paid lip service to those sorts of meetings. And a couple of things you mentioned there. So one, that cultural thing and the fact that everybody's got every voice, and it's non-judgmental as well. So it's not as if somebody says something, I've got this idea, and everyone's like, everyone has got the option to be able to just go, well, look, here's what I think. And to begin with, we had some big rocks, didn't we? So when we were talking, to explain to people listening, mostly we use kind of a stop, start, continue method, don't we? So, what should we stop doing? Things that are kind of, bad behaviours or things that are getting in our way. What should we continue doing? So things like the teamwork, etc. And then what should we start doing? And we came from a place where actually we had quite a lot of starts and we had some big things, big challenges we needed to kind of address. And then over the period of time, that thing of it always being 2 weeks, and then every 2 weeks we're picking the things that we think is going to have the maximum impact. And in the nicest sense, we're all committing to say we're going to implement those for the next time we sit down and have the meeting. And we've come from a place where, as I say, we had challenges and we had things that we needed to fix. to a place now where actually, we run, well, don't get me wrong, we're not perfect in any way, shape or form, but we're in a much better place than we were. But that little micro, should I say, changes. Every 2 weeks we're putting something in place to improve the way we're working. I always think when I'm out speaking to other customers, especially healthcare, that methodology, you can translate it to anything really, can't you? You just sit this non-judgmental space where people can share what they're doing, share their ideas about, start, stop, continue.
Yeah.
That lends itself to any industry really, doesn't it? You could do that anyway.
Absolutely. And then we can see the results now. As you said, looking back of where we were and where we are now, you can see the difference. You can see how we apply some of the feedback that we got and create actions of it. Today we are in a much better position. There are challenges every month because again, you got new starters, you got new people, different dynamics within the team, different level of expertise, so completely changes. But one thing that I will highlight about my colleagues is when we create an action, in order for that action to be action, we need an owner. You need an ownership of that. And there is never a time in which you leave the room and there is no someone volunteering to it. So that is part of the culture of the team that I'm really proud to say, we got this nice place to work in. That I think helped us to evolve as a team. And part of looking back now and say where we are now, this is great. This is part of why. So that's great.
There's a little bit of that, probably a term, I don't know if it's the right term to be fair, but cabinet responsibility of actually in that space you can challenge, you can, we can discuss whatever it looks like, but we all walk out of the room, virtual or otherwise, agreeing to commit to whatever the actions that we've said, these are the things that are going to make a difference. I think that's key. So, kind of slightly tying into that. So we've obviously grown pretty significantly in the last 18 months or so. The teams have kind of trebled in size. I think we've kind of gone up. I don't know how many devs we are now, but there's a lot more than just the we had when we were all sat in the room together. So obviously that comes with its own set of challenges about how we scale up. So can you tell us a little bit about how that has kind of had an impact on you, how it's had an impact on the team, and how we've overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so I think the obvious thing to say is we split the team in two. So we used to be a one team, obviously more people coming in. It was difficult to manage everybody and to be aware of what's going on. To hold these meetings, sometimes the stand-ups, it will take forever. So we decided to split the team in two, which is now a projects team, which focus on features or projects that are medium long term. And then we got the business as usual team, which we just named BAU, which deals with everything else. So that is the obvious thing that comes to mind, like the difference from before. Within the projects team, we got contractors as well to help us with the new audits module. So again, you think about it, and we got another team that grew significantly within the department. So what we did in the projects team, it is subdividing the team in two different sub teams. So we got the front-end team, which is pretty much dedicated to all the UI, UX stuff, some functionality as well. And then we got the back-end team, in which I'm happy to say that I've been leading the last few months. So that is the main change in the structure of the team. Then in terms of helping people to start working with us, so we got an amazing customer experience team, and they help us a lot as well with internally. So what we do is we send people in an induction training about our product. So the same that we give to our customers, we give it internally, so people understand the business logic behind everything. So once you understand that, you are ready to start looking at code. And I think that's key for us, because once we get to start coding with the new starters, understand what the product should do, and it's just easier to code. We had this issue before when I started myself. it was a bit more like, yes, you got some help from the people from customer experience, which I believe it was a different name, the department at the time.
Yeah.
You work out the business logic out the code, so you apply some reverse engineering them, and it was more difficult because you will have to spend longer. Sometimes you wouldn't feel confident about making changes, whereas now you can see people starting and within a week they are really keen to start working, reading the code, understanding the product, and the help from second week, third week, which is amazing. So I think obviously come with challenges, but at the same time, I think, as I said earlier, we evolve as a team. We learn from the new starters that we had before, and now we know what they need. Obviously, there will be things that they will fit back to us in the future that they say, oh, we can improve this. But I think, generally speaking, the new starters got this new starter pack, which helped us a lot. And I think that's probably the main changes that I can highlight, I can see from,
Yeah, I mean, I think we can do more in terms of getting the developers, not necessarily out with customers all the time, but I know, some more than others have kind of spent time kind of in beta sessions and kind of meeting customers and things like that. I think we can probably get a little bit better at that. And I think when we had one team, those kind of lines of communication within that team were, again, we were quite close-knit team, and we almost had that perfect thing of the right amount of developers to testers, and there was kind of a nice balance there, trying to kind of, for us as a kind of business challenge, take that model that made us successful in the first place, and we were productive, and we were, back to your thing about the sprints, we were shipping value all the time, we were always releasing new features for people, to kind of replicate that across all of the different teams we create in a way that still delivers that same thing and almost doesn't lose the culture as well. Because we don't want to suddenly scale up to 50 devs and that we've become sort of, I don't know, production house, and we're just churning stuff out. That we need to keep that somehow, and I don't know the answer to it, I don't think, but that bit of how do we maintain how that team worked in the first place, I think that'll be key to us being successful going forwards. And I don't have all the answers, as you can tell.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's a fair thing to highlight. I think when we prepare a job interview, one of the things that we try and extract from that interview is the personality of the candidate. It needs to be a fit. So I must admit that we rejected people just on the basis that we thought technically were really good, but personality-wise, we wouldn't consider that person will fit within the team and may disrupt the nice environment that we had. It sounds a bit unfair, but you got a job interview and you have to extract as much as possible within the interview. So you use your own tools to try and see how person will fit within your team. Job interviews are always unfair. It's a difficult process. You go there, you turn up, you get asked lots of questions, and you do as best as you can. But yeah, we definitely use job interviews for that, and I think that's been key. Just something to highlight, for example, the turnover that we got is very low, as in people leaving the company within the development team. I think it's been like 2 people in the last 5 years within the development team, which is quite unusual. That includes all the developers and testers. So I think we may do something right when we hire people, because people are happy and people stay with us for a long time.
Yeah, great. So in terms of kind of current projects and what you're working on at the minute, what part of Radar?
So currently I'm working on 2 specific areas of the product, which one was analytics. So we've been hitting some performance issues in the last few months. We try to identify what the root cause was. We've been working with our partner, SciSense, which is helping us with analytics. We identify several issues. We work on some of them. I'm happy to say that the product seems to be performing much better nowadays. It took us a bit of time to tackle all of them, because there wasn't just one root cause. there were several spread across the product that were slowing down the performance of Sisense. There was one particular area that we need to improve, and once we tackled that, it was performing much better. It took us a bit of time to release this to the customers because we wanted to be sure that that was the right solution. As well, because of the releasing process for analytics is a bit complicated sometimes, so that's why it took us a bit longer. But I think the product is performing much better now. It's been.
It's been a long, and let's be honest, both of us been working on this. It's been painful in some points, hasn't it? I think from a customer point of view, because obviously they don't see what goes on in the background, do they? They don't see. There's a frustration there because they're trying to use this part of the product, and it's great that there's a frustration there, which sounds a bit of a daft thing to say, but we would much rather people were going, this thing's too slow, this thing doesn't quite work for us, because at least you're getting the feedback then to kind of go, well, actually, one, you're using it, great, because we built it and somebody wants to use it, and then the bit of, well, actually now you're using it and you're getting frustrations, that gives us a direction in terms of what we need to kind of do in terms of development. But I think listeners, for a developer, obviously never see that stuff, do they? They never see the work, the hard work that goes in the behind the scenes in I don't know how much effort you've put into this, trying to fix these issues so they get a better product.
Yeah. So obviously you may find what the root cause of the issue is, but you always want to make sure that that fixes all the issues, and that takes time. You need to make sure that it works in different case scenario, and that helps. Just picking up what you said about the frustration of the customers, in a way, I pick it up as something positive as well. Because that means that they are using it. It's adding business value to them.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we wanted to be proactive and fix this as soon as we notice ourselves, and then we got this report from the customers. And I think just picking up about the work that we do in the background, developers, is, I can tell you, and about this, that we've been working flat out to fix this.
Yeah.
But it's not always easy, because you need to identify the root cause, you need to identify different approaches that can solve this, and then you need to apply them. Hopefully the first approach is the one that works, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's trial and error, and move on to the next approach and do it. But I think it's good to hear about people, I wouldn't say complaining, but providing some feedback, even if it's negative sometimes, to help us improve. So definitely I take that as a positive always.
Yeah, 100%. And then the other project you're working on, Audits, how's that going?
Yeah, that's right. So I am working on Audits. I am pretty much focused on the backend, which just to explain to listeners, what we're trying to do in Audits is we are replacing how audits work. So you probably can listen to another podcast about that, and how
there's a couple of webinars as well. Yeah.
Exactly, some webinars as well. But what we're trying to do in Audits, and I refer to the backend as the part of the product that is in our service, what we're trying to do is implement it in a way that anybody or any customer can talk to our system in the background.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do now is moving from something that we sometimes call monolith in the dev world, but what we're trying to do is creating something that a machine can talk to a machine.
Mm-hmm.
And our machine is going to understand that, and it's going to implement whatever you tell our machine. At the moment, we are just doing it for audits. So what it means is you pretty much will be able to open Radar to the wall, let our customers talk to our product in the backend and perform different actions. There is a lot to it, so I'm going to stop here because obviously I could spend the whole podcast talking about it.
But the thing about being API driven and about, like you say, currently in Radar, it's strange because you kind of think, well, how technical do you go in terms of explaining something? But the whole principle of what we're trying to do, even where we're going with some of the future projects, like what we're doing with analytics and pulse-driven events and data-driven events and IoT device-driven events, that concept of actually not that you're allowing anyone to kind of access into Radar, but fundamentally to develop API first. So rather than it being, as you said, previously, it's just you can't necessarily communicate with the different elements of Radar. So we could literally take our audits module and separate it out into something else that somebody could use. You can literally just pick it up, shift it somewhere else, and somebody could use it. You could even embed it in somebody else's product if you wanted to.
Yeah. So just to try and explain to listeners, as non-technical as possible. What we try to do is just open some part of the product that you can talk to. So obviously you first have to be authorized to do that, and secondly you have to know what you want to do. So we got documentation. At the moment it's only internal documentation that tells you how to achieve that. So the idea will be open up that to the world, which means that if you got the credentials, you should be able to tell your IT team, I want to talk to Radar, and you should be able to perform some actions. So that opens a different world to our customers, because if you got an IT team within your company, then you'll be able to do all this. Like you'll be able to sync your own system with ours. You will be able to create an action out of something that happened internally into your system, and potentially you'll be able to do that without having to click any button.
Yeah, it's machine, like you said, machine to machine. So it could be you're passing information into audit to create an audit, you create a scoring mechanism, you create an event in Radar. Workforce compliance, you might be pushing your e-learning information into it, so you're not having to kind of manually do any kind of duplication of effort there. Yeah, I think that's really exciting.
Within Radar, anything you can think of, any action that you can think of, you can perform in Radar at the moment. We should be able to perform that, with a trigger. That there are certain conditions that are met, and then that triggers that and create that or perform that action in our system. So definitely very exciting. We just starting now, but very excited about the possibilities that it brings to us.
Yeah, it's been definitely a learning curve. So how's the beta going of Audits? I mean, I don't know, I probably know a bit more than you about that, but I'll ask you the question anyway.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to talk from the development team perspective. We think that the customer satisfaction is high so far. We've been reported only one issue, which was a performance issue that it was due to several things. One of them is our Radar is a product which the permissions are very granular, so pretty much every single thing that you see in Radar has a permission attached to it, and then there are exceptions on top of the permission. So it's quite complex, that logic, and you have to run it for every single item that you see in Radar. So we just have to come up with something to fix that. I think it's performing much better now. So given that still is a beta version and we only have one issue, I will say that technically as well, the satisfaction is.
I mean, we've definitely had more than one issue up to this point, but at the minute there's only one live issue. But that point about that beta mechanism where and back to almost you're talking about the agile methodology, and buzzwords and things like MVP, so minimum viable product. The way we develop is, and it's probably been slightly different with audits because we're replacing something that already exists. So a customer's already got a minimum expectation, which is probably more than what you would normally have as a minimum viable product. But that mechanism we have of, we give it to we start almost on paper. What do you think to this? Give it to the customer, get some feedback, workshops, all that kind of good stuff. And then that development cycle of, again, you're giving it to them with the caveat of this thing is a beta and you will find problems with it. It will have bugs in it. It won't work properly in some areas. It will be slow. And, even down to the fact you might press this button, you lose data, whatever the stuff looks like. That, I think, works though, doesn't it? Because as that process of you guys understanding where you need to then go off and focus your efforts. So back to I've got one problem. You've got one problem at the minute, to be fair, which is that. But that's the frustration that the users have, which this thing's not performing in this particular area. So it helps you to kind of go, right, okay, I need to fix this thing. And it helps us prioritise as well, doesn't it? If you beat a customer as a shout, all shouting, right, this thing doesn't work, you need to fix this, then it helps us really easy to go, well, that's the next thing we work on, because that's the thing that's causing everybody loads of grief.
Yeah, I think in the development team, I think the lead time that we got is in radar, which again, the lead time, let me explain what that means. It means that since something is reported to our team, what it takes to reach us in the development team and for us to pick it up and start working on it and then releasing it. So that is the lead time. And I think it's quite low because we are quite good at picking up quickly any report, any feedback that we get, transform that into an action that reaches the development team, and the development team, as we pointed earlier, we work in 2-week sprints. Mm-hmm. So that we're gonna be working the next sprint, and then we are able to deliver it, 1 or 2 weeks later. So I think the lead time is quite low. Is within the development wall is what is expected. It's an average time. Yeah. If it goes over a month, probably it's just you need to review your processes, but I think it's within reason. And I think I lost the thread, sorry.
No, it's all right.
Yeah, I was just saying that I think in that respect, I think it works because you get feedback from the users quickly, and then you are able to kind of maybe change the direction of what you were going with audits,
100%.
Or prioritize your work and try and fix that first, and then you build upon something that already works and the customer is satisfied with.
Yeah, always trying to iterate. And you're right, you never start off with, here's a perfect design. It's like, I've built, here's what we're going to do, and it never changes, because that's the completely wrong way to develop, because you're not taking feedback. I've actually got a stat here, so I'll try and read it. I've got my kind of old man eyes, so I'm going to have to step back from the paper. So 29% of all the customer ideas that have ever come through kind of the beta process or the forums have been implemented, and 13% are planned. So I think that's pretty significant, to be fair. That really gives a good, clear indication of, we do listen to the feedback that the customers are giving to us. I mean, that's nearly 50% of stuff people are asking us to do. We end up developing. So if kind of moving on a little bit from that, so if somebody wanted to get into development, so if you're speaking to kind of like, did you always want it to be a developer, by the way? It's like a little mini Julio running around going, I want to be a developer.
That's a good question. No, actually, I think when I turned 16, I realized that I liked this world. I think it's just this thing inside you that like knowing how things work.
Yeah.
I was just playing video games with my computer, but I always wondered how things work behind that, black box, and you don't know. I think that interest took me into a 2-year course.
Yeah.
And that led to me going to university and trying to study computer science. But until then, not really. I was just happy with my, football, all that kind of things that the youngsters do nowadays. No, I didn't have that interest from a very early age. It was more kind of developed once, I have this idea of, I just want to see how this works. Yeah. I want to tear a computer apart and understand how it works. Just as a warning, the computer science degree doesn't really help you to do that. It gives you some pointers, but it definitely, got me into the development world, which I love. I didn't know about it until I started my 2-year course, and then I fell in love with that. Because my first interest was to see how the computer worked, but then kind of when I started the 2-year course, they got these assignments, which you just get into a notepad and then you start coding things, and it's like, okay, I really like how this works.
Right.
I want to know more about this. And then after the 2-year course, I was just consuming it. I needed to know more, and that's how I tried to get into a computer science degree. And since then, here I am, and I still love it.
Yeah, good. Well, that's good. Any advice to somebody just starting out then?
I think yes. I think the mindset, it must be like you like solving problems, and then you don't give up easily. I'm saying this because I've been studying with some friends, really. When they got into the working role of the side of the computer science degree that you do, but the one that you apply and you find in a job environment. They didn't like it because many times you are frustrated, you don't know how to solve a problem, and the important thing is you don't give up. And I'm saying this as an advice because you don't want to spend your time studying computer science degree and then not applying it. It's not, I would say, an easy degree to do. And then if you're gonna give up easily, don't go into it. If you, sorry, I'm not trying to discourage people to come into it, but I think one thing that I noticed is many friends that left it and they are now working on something that has nothing to do with computers.
Right.
So that's my advice. And then second one is, I think just give it a try. There are so much material now on the internet that actually it doesn't have to be like me, like do a 2-year course and then realizing that I love coding. You probably can try out before that. Honestly, go online, try and find some tutorials,
there's loads of stuff now,
read, and then you're gonna see quickly whether you like it or not. And I think with computer science, there is one thing, especially with development world, is whether you like it or not. I think there is no middle ground for that.
Okay. And then again, kind of personal point of view, what's the thing you love the most about the development within kind of the healthcare market that we're working in at the moment? Is there anything kind of in particular that you're passionate about when it comes to that and working with Radar Healthcare?
Well, so I can refer to my previous role. I was working in a different industry. I think, so that industry that I was working on, it was debt collection.
Right.
So for me, moving into healthcare, it just changes because I wouldn't say I was embarrassed to say to people, the industry that I was working in before I joined Radar. But definitely I feel now that pride that I work for healthcare, in the healthcare industry. That makes a difference to people. That is something that, I really feel proud about it, because it's not just the technical challenges in Radar. We got quite a lot, but it's as well the industry that you work in is important, and if you can make a difference to people out there, to just get a better care, then yes, I feel proud about it, and I'm really happy that I'm working on this industry.
Yeah, I wasn't debt collection, but I was kind of pubs and bars and vending machines and things like that, and you kind of think, well, not that way. We make a difference, we do if people use our product properly and people kind of, engage with it. And, I've just done a podcast on the analytics and how that helps people transform the way they deliver care. If people use it properly, it does, help patient safety, so fundamentally that is, I don't disagree. I think it's nice to have something from a work point of view that, you're right, you kind of go, this is what I do. I'm actually quite proud of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially, yes, we always, care is important for us, getting a good care. It's just that pride that you feel when you say I'm working in healthcare, and I think I help people to give better care to our elder people, to just people that are not at their best at the moment, so it's great.
Yeah, 100%. So at the end of each episode, we ask everybody to describe their what the HealthTech moment. So basically a bit of a fun question, and we want to hear any kind of weird or wonderful stories that you've experienced in health and social care, or if you can't think of anything weird and wonderful, anything that's made a real impact on you, or any kind of life-changing moment in the industry.
It's gonna sound very boring, but I think since I joined Radar, I think just want to highlight that I've been working with different people in my career. I think definitely I've been the happiest here in Radar. I'm not afraid to say it. It's something that I value a lot, and it's important to me. So sorry for not coming up with a boring thing, but I just don't have anything really happen to me while I was working in
No, if it makes you feel any better, I was the same. I think my story wasn't anything, but that's a good thing, isn't it? You did love working it. It's great. Cool, brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Julio. That was amazing. So thanks again for joining us this week, and thanks to everybody for listening. Next week we're going to hear from Joanne Howard, who is Director of Nursing and Quality at Molling Health, so tune in then. And don't forget to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you've got any questions for us or guests, please email us at whatthehealthtech@radarhealthcare.com.